What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really special knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Ramon Chaves Ultramar 229. This is a fantastic knife. This was lent to me by Mr. Shaker MT, or Harry Gage, who is a very generous patron of mine, and he knew that I wanted to check one of these out. This was my #1 most interesting knife of 2019 that I listed in a video a while back, and he said, hey, I've got a special group version of the knife coming. That's what this is. You're seeing here CKG 2019. This is a special group knife that was it was only available to certain people in the Chaves group. I'm not a part of the group. I have no idea how it works. There will be standard versions of the knife available with just a plain blasted frame, and then I think there's a tumbled finish, and then for 50 extra bucks you can get the hand satin finish, which is what is on this guy here. We'll talk about all that. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, unboxings, discussion videos, and I have a Knife Guy series on Sundays. I like to upload every single day. So if you like knife stuff and you like a constant stream of content, this might be the channel for you. So go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure you turn notifications to all. Also, for people who have been watching for a while, you guys know that I have this beautiful ProTech Mass Drop button lock Mordax to give away. This is a 20 CV blade in aluminum. It's about a $200 knife. Brand new, comes with all the packaging, things like that. The moment that I hit 60 patrons, I will open up a giveaway that is free to enter for everybody. Not just patrons, not just subscribers, literally everybody. So if you're not subscribed, that's a good reason to subscribe. If you are enjoying my content and you'd like to help support my channel and help me reach that goal at the same time, you can follow the link in the description to my Patreon. Have a look around and you can join any tier. $3 and up, you get a sticker like that. And then also you'll have access, regardless of which tier you join, to my once a week exclusive video. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about this beautiful knife. Let's get a measurement here. Overall length of the 229 Ultramar is coming in at exactly 8 inches. This is a big 8-inch knife. I'll say that. Let's do the blade length here. From tip to scale, you're looking at about 3... What do we want to call this? Golly, is it really 3.75 inches on that blade? Really? Wow, 3.6 to 3.75. And then the cutting edge, because there is a pretty substantial forward choil there, it's probably about 3.4 inches on the cutting edge. Really, really impressive. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see they're not quite the same length as the Rat 1. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall, getting closer there in the overall length. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall as well. So this is very similar in length to the Benchmade Griptilian, but I'll tell you, in terms of thickness, the Ultramar 229 is definitely a more substantial and more beefy knife, but not so beefy that it's unwieldy. This is not the same knife as the 228 Mid-Tech, which I did own. We'll talk about that here in a second. Last size comparison up against the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. Let me give you guys an example of the action on this guy. So this is a knife that runs on bearings, and it is extremely smooth. It also has one of those setups with the thumb stud where it's in such a perfect place that you can get such a good lock-in on it. When this thing fires, it goes, and it feels good. This is a perfect detent setup for reverse flicks, for standard thumb flicks, whether you are the type of person who likes to use the meat of your finger or your fingernail itself. Either way, it's going to deploy. This is very, very fun to deploy. This was masterfully put together in terms of him thinking about where's the person's thumb going to be, where's it going to be in a relationship with where they're holding it because of how I designed the handle. Yeah, this was all thought about. This knife is an Ultramar version of the knife, which means that it was made by Riot. I'll show you here on the box. You can see Ultramar 229 drop point hand satin. So this is their drop point variant. Now they do have a Tanto variant, which has the same look, except the bell, it's less of a belly and more of a Tanto, but it does still have a continuous belly. It's just kind of, from what I saw, it's not a It's not a, you know, a sharp angle. There is a dramatic change as it comes up and turns into a tanto, but it's not quite the dramatic tanto that we're all used to. Let's go ahead and get a weight on this guy. These are full titanium, and they are bigger than the standard Streets and Ultramars that you guys have been seeing. It's definitely a larger knife. This is the same overall length that the 228 Mid-Tech was available in back in, I don't know, 2000, was it 2015 or 16? I can't remember, something like that. Did I just turn that off? Overall weight on this guy, solid titanium, coming in at 6.5 ounces. That's about what I thought. My Hinderer XM18s are always about 6 1/4 to 6.5, and they're pretty close to the same overall size. So this is a heavy guy. Now, that's right there where I prefer like the top end of my carry weight, and this is a pretty big knife. I would have no problem carrying this. The profile is one that is very simple, and it really doesn't take up a lot of room in your pocket, despite being kind of a brick. Now, this blade is only about, I don't know the exact thickness. It looks to be about the same thickness as the Spyderco PM2. I'm going to guess it's 150 thousandths at max. The original, the 228 Mid-Tech, well, the original one, the custom one, I think was a 1/4 inch thick. Then the 228 Mid-Tech that I had was 187 thousandths throughout in the scales and the blade. And that's about the same thickness as an XM24. This guy, I don't think the blade is even quite as thick as an XM18 standard, which is 165 thousandths. So they've slimmed it down a little bit. Now, I did like the bricky feeling of the other one, but I can tell you this knife still is a substantial knife. It's still big, but they've slimmed it down just enough to where you keep that feeling like, oh yeah, that's a big, you know, a robust, like powerful feeling knife, but not one where it's like, okay, why is it so thick? Does it really need to be that thick? In my opinion, they just nailed it. This, I mean, like, listen, I'll save you guys some time, 7 minutes in. This is probably going to be close to a, you know, a 15 to 20 minute video like usual. I'm going to say a whole bunch of really good stuff about this knife. There's not a lot bad to say. So if you like how this looks and you want to know, like, what do you think? Yeah, I'm going to recommend it. It's for a good price. The action is incredible. If you're interested in this knife, you likely, you know a lot about that already. But if you want to stick around and hear me gush about it, that's what this is going to be. But if you're like, should I buy it or should I not buy it? Yeah, you should buy it. This is excellent. It's an excellent knife. Let's go ahead and talk about it here. So what we have is one of the coolest Spanto-style blades that I've ever seen. This is the satin finish. I like hand-rubbed satin finishes, but honestly, I would opt for a simple tumbled finish. His hand-rubbed satin is masterfully done. I mean, it's actually Riot's hand-rubbed satin, and it's masterfully done. It looks great. I love how this comes up here, you know, where the hollow grind meets the flat grind there at the tip, and the swedge comes out to about 85%. So you've got plenty of material, plenty of strength coming out to the tip. It does get plenty fine. It also is nice and thin behind the edge. Oh, that edge feels nice. Very capable, absolutely. Nice swedge up top. But, you know, all these little lines and all these little edges, you know, so many opportunities for things to be sharp and not rounded off correctly. Now, everything is nicely rounded off. The only sharp points are right here on the inside of those jimping slots. But you can see that they did chamfer those just a little bit. So it provides traction without destroying your fingers. I love his little key logo. It's simple and it just adds to the aggressive theme of the knife. It looks really, really good. You can also see here that we have M390. Perhaps one of the only things on the entire knife that I don't like is the very simple stock text looking print of that M390. You know, like somebody just opened up a word processor and just typed M390 and then they just stamped that on the blade. It's fine. It's small enough that that's such a stupid nitpick. But I looked at that and I was like, yeah, they could have used a different font. That's a dumb thing to complain about. But, you know, I'm just trying to be honest. Thumb studs are awesome. Barrel shape, they stay the same length. They don't taper. They've got lots of traction lines in there. They also are clearly removable, so you can just use your Torx bit and pull those off there if you want to. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. The knife runs on bearings. It feels like ceramic bearings. Very, very smooth. I cannot emphasize that enough. The action is insane. This knife is brand new. It will clearly drop shut after a little bit. There is no double clutch. You do get, well, I'm saying that and it's coming past it right there. You do get past the detent ball in the standard position. You also can have it drop down to your thumb, though that's a little bit more of a dangerous drop position. You just kind of have to get your thumb in exactly the right place. right there. It's going to fall past and you're going to be just fine. It isn't quite like knives that have the flipper tab to kind of stop on your finger and give you a clear definition of when it's past the detent ball, when it's set up correctly. But it's a really good setup, definitely. I tend to want to close my knives like this anyway. I kind of like to kick it down into place. Either way, this knife is set up really, really well for that. Like I said, runs on bearings. The stop pin is located deep inside there. You can see how deep this knife wraps around that stop pin in the closed position. I don't know if that's beneficial or not. It's just kind of interesting to me. It's well hidden back here. You do have a forward choil on the blade. It's not huge. You're not going to be putting the meat of your finger up there, but you definitely can get your, this part of your finger behind the first joint in there. So you do definitely have a position where you can kind of lock in and do some fine detailed work. I had a lot of people tell me on my choil video that, it only makes sense on certain lengths of blade. I don't agree with that. I think everybody's entitled to their preferences depending on just how they like things. I think that nobody's opinion is wrong, definitely. But to say that it absolutely does not belong on a longer blade and it absolutely belongs on a shorter blade doesn't make sense to me, because your own definition of long and short is at play there. But, yeah, there's going to be, a lot of times more delicate tasks, it makes sense to use a smaller blade, and more hard use tasks or tasks that require a different type of usage or more, heavy impact usage of your knife, you may not ask, you may not need to use a blade like that, or it may not make sense to use a larger blade for delicate cutting tasks, even if it does have a forward choil. My argument would be, in not every circumstance would you have exactly the right small knife with a choil and exactly the right large knife on your person. Sometimes it's just helpful to have a choil up there and just go ahead and use this larger knife that may not specifically be made for a little delicate cutting tasks. It may not specifically be made for that, but you can go ahead and use it because the choil's there. That's kind of why I prefer a choil on all knives. I'm okay with that. But I don't want to, open up a discussion about that. That would be my argument for that. Is I don't think that they should be exclusive to certain lengths of blades. I don't know that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Anyways, I'm sure I opened up a can of worms there. Moving down to the scales, you have the same silhouette of scale that was on the 228 in a lot of his knives. Very simple, very straightforward, very aggressive looking in kind of a simple way. This car makes me think of a muscle car. It makes me think of an old Challenger, an old Charger, or an old SS Chevelle. It looks, hunched over and ready to go, fists clenched and just powerful. That's what it looks like. But it's in a simple way. It's in a nice, it looks elegant, but it also looks angry and aggressive and, not overly crazy, not like a gas station, like shiny and black and with a dragon on it and fire coming out. Not that. That's corny. This looks nice. This looks good, but it looks aggressive. It looks like a tool, but it also looks like, wow, dang, that's pretty cool. That's kind of the impression that I'm getting from it. Now, the standard version of this knife is not going to have this laser stuff all over it. This is the group knife. The standard version is going to have a bead blasted finish, but this is really nice. And by the way, yes, this is actual. It does feel like a little bit of texturing there. You can see how he did the key logo and that checker pattern. It says CKG, which means Chaves Group Knife 2019. No, I cannot link where to get this knife because I don't know, and I don't think it's available anymore. You have a simple Torx head front screw here for the adjustment side, and you've got two screws back here. I love how he did the laser etching around those screws. These are also large enough to where you can safely get your tools in there if you want to adjust it without having to worry about stripping it. You have a very simple and completely flush, perfectly machined backspacer that just looks awesome on this knife. And then we've got the Chaves, the polarizing Chaves skull pocket clip. The first time I saw this, I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I got mine and I was like, I love that. That's awesome. I don't care what people think. I actually carried my 228 mid-tech and I loved having this stick out of my pocket. It actually looks really cool to me sticking out of a jeans pocket. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I'm not going to try and convince you if you don't love it. That's just the way that it is. Now, on the old ones, this served as kind of an over-travel, not really a stop, but an over-travel slowdowner because it was sitting on the frame and on the scales. On these newer versions of the knife, you actually do have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over treble stop, which is great. That's a nice modern upgrade of this knife versus its original version that was just the titanium frame lock with no steel lock bar interface. The older one was also S35VN. The new one's M390. Both steels are great. They could have kept it S35VN. They could have. But the M390 is obviously welcome. I think that's going to attract a lot more people given generally just how M390 is up on a pedestal anyway. This knife all the way around is just excellent. It looks sharp and angular, but it's really not. The sharpest corners on this knife are right here and right here. So if you're, you're not really in a position where you're going to notice those as much though, because they're back here. So I don't really have a problem with that. These corners up here, little bit sharp, a little bit around where the jimping is. Not really that bad. If you're doing continuous work and you're not wearing gloves, you might notice that. But in standard grip right here, honestly, the only thing I'm feeling is the edge of this pocket clip, and it's really not that bad. The knife is going to carry about right here, so there's really not a lot of it sticking up. These are milled all the way through, so you can see there. You can see right through the eyes. The inside of the frame does not have milling. These are solid chunks of titanium. Yeah, it would lighten the blade up if he did some weight reduction on those. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, or in the production models, whenever they come out, we eventually see that as a thing in there. I mean, it might lighten it up to about 5.5 ounces, something like that. But this is just an excellent knife all the way around. It's everything that I hoped that it would be. For the 2019 model, I looked at that and I watched Slicey Dicey's video and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. People have been asking me, how do you like this versus your XM18 that's in full titanium? I've got a no-choil spear point XM18, or I'm sorry, a non-flipper spear point XM18 that's just generation 6. So it's full titanium. It's got bearings. It's in 20 CV steel, which is an American M390. Very similar in overall size and weight. And I called that knife the closest thing to Excalibur. So how do I feel about this knife versus my XM18? I'm not going to do a versus video, but I'll tell you this. If there's another knife out there that stands up to my feelings of the XM18, as close as possible, it's going to be this knife. The downside to this knife is that choil is nowhere near as roomy as the one on the XM18 as far as the non-flipper versions. The flipper versions are probably about the same. But the weight's about the same. The action feels just as good, if not, honestly, on this guy, a little bit better. Here's where the Chaves is going to win for a lot of people. According to Harry, this group knife will set you back about $400. The standard version of this knife, that's just, I think, a tumbled blade and a blasted frame, but all the same features that you're seeing here, is only $350. $375 with the hand rub satin finish. That's amazing. That's an unbelievable price. I am so happy with that. You want to get my version of the XM18 without the tie scale, it's going to cost $425. With the tie scale, it's going to cost you $625 brand new. Now, the Rick Kinder is made in the United States, and the Chaves is made in China, but it's made by Riyadh. By now it's like, yeah, Riyadh's, they make really, really good knives. If you need warranty work done, I would imagine you do have to send it quite a ways. I don't know that you can send these to Ramon Chaves himself. It's my understanding you'd have to send it quite a ways, so there's a downfall there. But listen, $350 is a great price. This is just an excellent knife. This is going to go on 2 different playlists. It's going to go on my most recommended knives. It's also going to go on my favorite knives of all time playlist. This is awesome. Lots of joy in aesthetics, lots of joy in function. It's right up there amongst the other greatest knives that I have ever handled in terms of potential function, deployment, ergonomics, all that stuff. I mean, this is just a gigantic win. There's very little to complain about. If you've been on the fence, pull the trigger. If you're one of those people who has never spent more than about $200 on a folding knife, and you're kind of like, oh, these knife reviewers keep telling me that there's better and better knives, the higher you go up, you're not going to get necessarily any more in capability and function, but you will get more in terms of enjoyment. And as your palate refines for stuff like this, this is a great knife. If you're thinking about pulling the trigger on a $300, $400, $500 knife, this is a great knife to do that with. But that's pretty much all I can say about this knife, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.